everyone. Welcome to today's interview. My name's Susan Wesser, and I'm really excited to have with me today Donna Hanson, productivity specialist, who Donna is going to be telling us all about how we can manage email overload. Welcome, Donna. Wonderful to see you today.
Lovely to be with you today, Susan, and all of our people online everywhere around the world.
Yes, whether you're online joining us live from Melbourne, Australia, where it's just gone 12 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon, or whether you're watching the replay wherever you are in the world, we're really excited to have you with us today. Now, we'd like to hear from you. Please give us your questions and comments and put them in the chat, because we're going to be having a Q&A towards the end of our interview today. So please don't be shy. Put your questions and comments and introduce yourself. Tell us where you are in the world. Now, Donna, I thought it'd be really interesting to hear about you and hear about your background and how you found yourself in your line of work, and whatever you feel is relevant that the audience would be interested in hearing about you.
Yeah, sure. I'll keep it short, because I'm sure anybody who's watching today is probably going to go to themselves, just get to the juicy stuff. So a bit of background: for the last 25 plus years, I've worked in the space of adult education. Prior to that, I was in a variety of administrative roles where I saw what people needed in the real world. And I got really interested in helping people improve their productivity, performance, and reduce their stress and frustration. And I had a particular interest in the Microsoft Office programs, because in my administrative roles, that's what I was using every day. So I got asked to join a computer hardware company as their training manager, and I did some great things there. Set up a training division, won a 2-year contract with a local government, and also set up a joint venture with an association here in Victoria, Australia. And after about 12, 18 months, that company went into liquidation in sort of the boom bust of the 90s, not through my division, of course, very profitable. And I went out on my own and started contract training, and I did that for quite some time. And what I realised was there were a lot of programs people were going to that were generic and weren't specific, and people couldn't see the context between what they were learning and how that would make a difference to their workplace. So over the course of the last 15 years, I've been working primarily directly with clients, helping them work out how to work smarter and not harder with everyday technology. And I'm blessed to have been able to work with some amazing global brands, including Microsoft, IBM, and Accenture, just to name a few. So that's sort of it in a nutshell.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Working smarter, not harder. Very, very important these days when we're so
Absolutely.
overloaded on so many fronts. And what do you love most about your work? What gives you the most satisfaction?
Well, look, I love seeing the light bulbs go off over people's heads. And I think I mentioned, 20-year or so journey working in this space. So when I first started, all I really had was an understanding of real world needs. It wasn't until a little further down the track that I took the additional step and ended up studying and getting a Bachelor of Training and Development, specialising in adult education. So I'm really passionate about making life easy, because I sort of wish that I was available back when I started working with technology, because we really didn't have anywhere to go back then. Not like now we have the internet. You can basically Google anything and get a million things, and then you've got to try and work out how they're going to make your life easier. It's
Yes.
like a minefield.
Yeah, so you make it easy for people. Just you home in on what's important and make things easy.
Yeah, hone in on what they need in their roles. And there's a lot of things in general terms that people do with all of the different programs that are common things people need to do and common things people need to manage. So I help them focus on where the greatest pain is. And, it might be email, it could be Word documentation, it could be Excel spreadsheets and analysing big data. So it's not a one size fits all, but what you need to be able to get more productive and less stressed and frustrated is my priority. Because happy people, happy staff stay in jobs. Unhappy people, or people that don't feel like they're supported in learning how to be better in their roles, will move on.
That's right. So you're right. It's a win-win-win, however way you look at it. And talking about productivity, improving productivity and reducing stress leads us perfectly to our topic today, which is email overload. And before we launch into the cure and your top tips, Dr. Donna, how about we talk a little bit about the problem itself, talk about the symptoms of it, how it affects us with time sap, and how it affects us with so stress and productivity, those two, how they go hand in hand.
Absolutely. Look, Dr. Donna's here, and of course, a disclaimer,
The doctor's in the house, yeah.
I am not a real doctor.
Really? I had no idea.
I know. I just needed a white jacket rather than a black one today. Look, problem with email overload, there's a number of different things here. First of all, it's perspective. You know, I'm sure you, like a lot of people watching this this session today, some days you might go, oh yeah, I've got a handle on email, I feel okay. And other days you might just go home, or perhaps these days leave your office space at home and feel like all you've done is send and receive emails all day. So it's a matter of putting it in perspective. And really, there's no rule book. For most of us, when we start in a new role, the organisation, gives us a username and a password and says, here you go, off you go. You're not really forced into a process. There's no expectation. So we create our own. And as a result, we often get overloaded by email, and organisations tend to assume this is just a cost of doing business.
Right.
There's also multiple aspects to it. So if you think of like a Venn diagram is the only example I can give, there's sort of, if you think of three circles that intersect in the middle, one circle is you as an individual, the other circle is the team that you're part of, and a third circle is the organisation as a whole, and all three of those intersect. And so there's multiple aspects to it. There's how you respond to it, which is something that's in your circle of influence that you can control, your team, which you may be able to influence depending upon your role or how the communication is, and your organisation and its approach. And it's about finding that crossover point between the tools and the people. When we have this tool that is free to use and just so easy, we tend to do things just because we can.
Yeah, it's like the Wild West, where we just, let's just send an email, rather than thinking, is email even the most appropriate medium for our message? Maybe we should pick up the phone or do something else, hold a meeting or whatever.
Absolutely. And, that was one thing I was asked on a television interview. The interviewer asked me, how do you know if email is the most appropriate way to respond? And that was sort of an off-the-cuff question that he asked. And I took a moment to pause and think, and then I just said, look, I think if you need to ask that question of yourself, the answer is email is probably not the best way to respond. And we've all seen examples that get virally shared around the world of people that have used email perhaps as a mechanism to communicate, and it's actually come back to bite them in some way.
Yes, it's without putting that thought into it. It's really, I think before you do anything, you think, is this the right message? Is this the right medium? Maybe there's a better way.
And I also think, Susan, that what tends to happen is people are looking for the magic pill with everything. So what's that one thing that is just going to be that life-changing thing that's going to make my life so much easier, that's going to clear up my email, that's going to do whatever I need it to do? And, that doesn't always exist. Like, there is a number of organisations and processes out there that you can employ to manage email. But unless that resonates for you, it can be really challenging to take on board. Sometimes my philosophy is if the person I am this morning and the person I am I was yesterday, as long as at the end of today I have improved a tiny bit more than I was yesterday, then that's a good thing. And it's the incremental pieces. It's like saying to you, Susan, look, I'm training for a bodybuilding competition. You don't wake up and go, I'm training for a bodybuilding competition and I'm doing it tomorrow. you have to plan these things and you have to implement changes as you go along. Well, it's the same with email. It's just the fact that we've gotten to this point where we're looking around and we go, how on earth did we get here? But reality is it's snowballed. And the missing link, I think, really is having a strategy. So today I'm hoping to share some scenarios and some examples and some tips and ideas, and figure even if our viewers could walk away with one idea that they start applying and it makes a difference, then I reckon that's a good investment of time.
I think you're right. You're right. Just these little tips all add up, they accumulate, and they make a difference. So, Donna, go ahead, give us the tips. Tell us about. Just spill the beans on it. Like, do you want to talk about the strategy? How do you want to attack this?
Look, I'll just share a few things. First of all, what everybody needs is going to be different. So, you might feel really comfortable with where your inbox is at the moment, and the thought of having inbox 0, which is something that goes around, might be a little overwhelming for you. That's okay. There might be tips here you go where you go, I already do that. Well, that's okay. That tip's not for you. As the great Seth Godin says, not for everyone. So pick and choose the tips, the ideas, the thoughts that are right for you. And just remember, you can come back to this recording. Plus, hopefully some of these ideas will just tweak or spark a thought. And whilst it might not change a process that you're doing, it may provide you with a topic of conversation that you can take back and explore with your team. So my strategy isn't around having a structured process. It's around making little tweaks and changes, getting improvements and building on them over time. So, Susan, one of the first things I do when I work with clients on managing email is I ask them, do they leave their email open all day?
Good question.
And the answer I generally get from 90% of people, if they're telling the truth, is yes. And the reason why they do that is FOMO, fear of missing out. People often leave their email open all day because they consider it to be how we communicate. Now, when I say that, there are some organisations that will tend to use programs like Teams or Slack or similar sorts of software where they communicate and chat internally. But we're talking about Outlook and email today in general. So, the challenge is, you've got your email open all day, you're working away on something that requires your attention, and then all of a sudden a little box pops up and says, you've got new mail. And, curiosity killed the cat is the old saying. And, we can't not be drawn in. And there's plenty of research to show that multitasking or distractions can really, really be a time vampire for you. So, we just need to be a bit more thoughtful, first of all, about our email and how we utilise it. So I'll just share with you a couple of stories. I had an organisation I was working with, and we were working on email management. And I said, how quickly should you respond to email? And one of the managers in the program, I was horrified, one of the managers in the program said to me, well, if I send an email, it doesn't matter what time it is, I expect my staff to respond to it within, a few minutes. And I just sort of looked around and I saw a few people going, and I'm thinking, nobody knows whether this person's serious or not. So sometimes it's a matter of people thinking I'm supposed to respond quickly. There's this expectation.
Time critical factor, almost like you're on a help desk and time's of the essence. But yes.
But reality is, as anyone who has children would know, if something, God forbid, happens to your child at school or at the kindergarten or whatever, they're not going to send you an email saying, come and pick up your child. They're going to call you on your mobile phone, your cell phone, or your landline, whatever emergency number you provided. So you aren't going to miss anything. It's about creating expectations. And often we just flick off the emails thinking we're ticking our boxes, but we haven't actually thought about the consequences of what we're adding to other people's to-do lists. And one of the fantastic stories, or one of the fantastic learnings I had a number of years ago, I was invited to Singapore to be one of only 5 people outside of the US accredited to train an email productivity process to Microsoft's own staff. Yeah.
Wow, that's a bit of an honour. That's a real honour.
I know, crazy, right? But
Yeah.
it just makes you understand that even Microsoft recognised the importance of managing how we work. So, thinking about the emails that come in, are they important or not important? And are we fragmenting attention? What sort of guidance have we given to people on how we, as a individual, organisation or team, going to use email? And a lot of organisations don't actually dedicate funds to get people all on the same page. So, for example, I had a client where we implemented some video conferencing software, millions of dollars worth of equipment. They come to me and they go, we want to train our staff in how to use it. I go, okay, what's your budget? And that was more to understand what we would be able to do within those constraints. And they go, oh, we haven't allocated a budget. So sometimes people spend more money on the technology than actually giving staff the tools to understand how we're going to use it. So
it's like giving an 18-year-old a Lamborghini. You can't do that. You have to train people how to use things. It goes part and parcel with the technology, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I wanted to give a few tips for people struggling with email overload. And of course, coming back again, we need to firstly recognise that for so long we've been triaging emails instead of having a strategy. And until we reach sort of this tipping point, we just tend to cope with it. Like I said, pick and choose. For some people, this approach of just tweaking 1 or 2 things might not be enough. Maybe you want a full-on strategy that you can just dump over the top of your emails. Great. Go looking for fantastic programs from people like Dave Allen, US-based Dave Allen, who has his Getting Things Done strategy. And you could Google anywhere for processes, structures, software, etc. But I'm all about leveraging what we've got to get a better return on investment. So here we go. Some tips. First of all, tip number 1, open your email program in the calendar. So don't ever open it in your inbox. Doing that sucks you in to other people's expectations for the day. So if you've ever opened up your email and then look at your watch and go, oh my God, where did that hour go? It's because you opened your email and you let other people's priorities impact on your own. In all email programs, it's pretty easy. You can go to the help feature and there'll be options to enable you to open up your email program in the calendar. It reminds you of your priorities. You can easily go back to the inbox to have a look. The second tip is scheduled times. Now, for some people, this can be a bit, because they go, oh, if I don't have my email open all day, what if something important comes in? Well, like I said, if it's important, someone should call you or they'll connect with you. They'll come to your desk in some way. If it's life-threatening, it's generally what happens. You can have scheduled times to deal with email. Now, this is particularly relevant if perhaps you have a task that you do once a week or once a month that requires your complete and undivided attention. You'll be amazed how much you can do when you've just got one sole single focus. So you might choose to come in the morning, get your high priority tasks done, so those that link back to your key performance indicators. And then, maybe around lunchtime or 10, 11 o'clock, you might choose to go in and check your emails and respond to them. And then you might choose to do the same again early afternoon. Some people I know have even used their email footers to say, I only respond to emails twice a day, or if you need to contact me urgently, contact me through Teams, Slack, or on my cell phone or mobile, whatever the preferred response is. But what that does is it takes the stress and anxiety of needing to be always on with email away.
I like that tip, yep.
Yeah, alternate communication. So one of the things that happens is because email is free, people tend to send a lot of it. And the law of attraction tells you what you put out is what you get back. So the more emails you send, the more you're likely to get back. The strategy I use is to use an alternative communication method. So I'll do a Teams meeting with clients in their Teams environment. I'll do a Zoom face-to-face, etc., virtual face-to-face, and I'll use email to clarify the communication and the actions and not be the actual conversation. So looking at email as a tool to confirm the discussions you have and to make sure that you've understood things correctly. So that's my third tip. Now, my fourth tip, and I love this one, this is so handy, is setting a 30-minute delay to all of my emails being sent. And again, I often get people throwing their arms up going, I couldn't possibly do that. Well, you can. The 30-minute delay is fantastic. If you've ever sent an email to somebody and the minute you've pressed send and it's gone out of your outbox, two things. One, you might think to yourself, I forgot to attach something. Well, these days, the email programs will prompt you if you've referenced something like attachment or file, etc. But maybe you've forgotten a secondary one. Or, heaven forbid, for me, I accidentally sent an email, thankfully it was just something simple, to another Paul, my husband's name's Paul, just detailing what we were going to be having for dinner that night. And I got an email back from this other Paul saying, thanks for the invite, but I think this message wasn't meant for me. So 30-minute delay just gives you a little window of opportunity to grab that email back, make some edits or delete it. And the final thing is, this is the only process that I have, and it's actually quite a simple process, and that's email SOS. So the first S in SOS stands for stop sending. And you might be going, well, Donna, what does that mean? Again, you stop sending emails, you'll stop getting them back. So if you start thinking strategically about how you use email, and instead of just sending off emails, you start to think about how can I combine all the things I want to ask somebody into maybe a Word document and then arrange a Teams meeting, a Zoom meeting, or a face-to-face with them to discuss and answer all those questions. And the beauty is the response times then start to close down, because what often happens, we send an email, we wait a week, somebody's done nothing, so we've got to follow up again, and all of a sudden timelines blow out. So that's the first S. The O in email SOS is to go offline. So it's okay to switch off your email and not have it open. It's okay to switch it off at 6 o'clock at night, unless, of course, your role involves you responding to emails at 6 o'clock at night. Hey, stranger things. So going offline and giving yourself the time and space to recharge at night and be totally present with your family and your friends on your downtime, because that's why it's called the weekend. It's the end of the week, and we use it as an opportunity to recharge our body so that we can give ourselves to our work during the week. And the final S in email SOS is to stop others sending. Now, again, I often see people with that look on their face. What I mean by this is too often we hand out our email address. I no longer hand out business cards, because I don't want people to add me to their mailing list. Mind you, of course, on lots of parts of the world now, this is illegal to do. You're actually breaching the spam laws, etc. So I wouldn't do, there's no way I'd do that. But even simple things like we check into a hotel, they'll ask for an email address. And I'll often ask the question, if it's to send their receipt or an invoice, etc., I'm okay with that. But make sure you tick the box that says opt out of marketing material. And often that is selected by default. So there are 5 simple things you can do. Open your email in the calendar, have scheduled times, look at alternative communication and use email to clarify rather than be the discussion, set a 30-minute delay, and email SOS. Whew.
Oh, I love them. Really great tips, short and sharp and to the point. And let me ask you, I think another thing that I find useful is unsubscribing from emails you don't look at.
Yeah, look, I think what happens is after a while, we join email lists, and at the time it's really useful. But yeah, you're right. And the thing that irritates me the most is people that say, reply to this email with unsubscribe in the subject. By law, in most countries, you now have to have an unsubscribe button at the bottom of any marketing sort of emails. So, absolutely unsubscribe wherever you can to reduce the volume of email. But for a lot of us, it can be really hard, and it requires a conversation to take control of our email inside our organisation, and to start that dialogue and conversation with your team. I was working with a chartered accounting firm, and I did a program for them, and at the end the manager came up to me and he said, "Oh my goodness, Donna," he said, "just that one thing about not using email to confirm things is going to save us 30% of our email that goes around." Because what was happening was, when a particular action happened in that team, they sent out an email and they BCC'd everybody in the team. So all of a sudden, one email is going to 30 people. You do that 5 times, that soon adds up, and it adds stress. The more we see emails popping in, we get quite stressed. Anyway, you can see I'm on a soapbox.
Oh yes, you could talk for hours on this topic. Yes, I think. Yeah. And one question I'd like to ask you: what do you do when you look at your inbox and you see, I don't know, a few thousand, a few hundred, whatever the number is? Where do you start cleaning it up?
Yeah, look, there's some interesting things. In the US, a while ago, there was a program that was, like a 10 steps program if you were addicted to your email. So there are things out there, but, there's some common things that you could do if you were, if you wanted to. Some of the simple things you could do is schedule 15 minutes in your calendar at the end of every day and use that time to start going through those emails, deleting what you don't need, filing what you do need, and then maybe looking at how you can leverage tools like rules within your email programs to be able to automate some of that process to clean it up. But, you didn't get your 10 or 15,000 emails in your inbox in one day.
Yeah, it's like weight loss, isn't it? You're not going to lose your kilos in a week or two, even though you'd like to. It's
or cleaning your house,
Yes. It's got to be little steps each day, and then you see that progress and you feel better. It's like a declutter almost of your inbox,
Absolutely.
but over time.
Yeah, absolutely. And setting aside like a 15-minute block doesn't feel so onerous. And in effect, towards the end of the day, it gives you the opportunity to wind down. And if you wanted to do it faster, you could allocate 30 minutes, at the end of each day. Won't take you long to get through them.
And often, it's like anything you procrastinate and you don't want to do. It's just making that little start. And then before you look around, you think, oh, that 15 minutes wasn't hard. And sometimes you make it half an hour because you actually get into it. You get past that inertia and you get into it. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So I want to ask you a special question now, Donna, that I like to ask my guests. If you could go back in time to your young 18-year-old self, what advice?
So last week?
Yeah, last week, of course. 3 years ago. You're 21, aren't you? Yeah. Well, it's not that long ago, but it's a few years ago. What advice would you have for that young woman?
That's a really good question, because we all go, if I only knew then what I know now. I think, which is basically what you're asking. I think that the key thing, if I was talking to my younger self, the key thing I'd say is back yourself. I think too often when we're young, we just look for what the right thing is that we're supposed to be doing. And I think I'd tell myself, trust your gut and know that you have everything you need to achieve whatever it is you want to achieve. And don't be afraid to say yes, because you never know where it will take you. And understand that not everybody, appreciate that not everybody operates the same way you do, and work with people whose values align with yours, and don't be afraid to say no to things that don't feel right.
Oh, there's some wisdom there. But I like the trusting your gut, your intuition, and having faith in yourself and confidence in yourself, and I don't know, just doing what you want to do in the world. A lot of times too, we follow careers that we're not that excited about. Maybe our
ours.
family. Pardon?
They weren't ours. They were
They weren't someone else's
vision or dream
expectations.
and-
Yes. So this is some real pearls of wisdom there.
And
Thanks
if you had told me when I was 18 that this is what I'd be doing now, I probably would have laughed at you.
Yes, because you couldn't see the whole It's like
You
Steve
can't.
Jobs. Did you ever see that Stanford lecture from Steve Jobs when he
No.
spoke about? Oh well, it's a wonderful lecture. I think it's on.
Check it out.
Yes, and he speaks about how we spoke about how when you're older, you join the dots and you look at your life, and things start to make sense. The trajectory of your life, it makes sense. But at the time, when you're in the thick of it, and you're going through challenges and issues and problems, and you can't see how it's all going to work forward, but when you go backwards, you can see how it all made sense.
Absolutely. And sometimes, like with what I do, sometimes you just need someone to come in and shine a light on
Yes.
what's possible.
Yes.
Because maybe you can't see the forest for the trees, and sometimes a fresh set of eyes coming in and
That's
just shining
right.
a light on stuff can make you go, oh, now I see it. I didn't know
Yes.
that was there, and that can save you so much time, stress, and frustration.
Yes, and you're those fresh set of eyes. So yes, yeah, brilliant. Now, Donna, you have a special offer for people. Can you let me just highlight it here? Tell us
Sure.
all about that.
So I have several courses, and one of the courses that I thought would be really appropriate for this is a little challenge. So it's a 10-day Microsoft Outlook and email challenge. So it's 10 tips in 10 days. Now, the beauty of this is, often what happens is we get fire hosed with information. And so this program, this short challenge is designed to give you 10 tips over 10 days. So you purchase the course, which is normally $9.97, but as you can see on screen here, if you use the code $1, ONE dollar, all in lowercase at checkout, you'll only pay $1 for that course. And in there, you have the ability to opt in to get reminders if you want them, or you can just come in each day and review the tip that gets released. And you've got access to those resources for your life. Come back anytime and revisit them. But reality is, for $9.97 or even for the $1, you've only got to pick up one thing that's going to make your life easier. And, I reckon that's money well spent, and time.
Time, yep. Time is money, as the saying goes. And if people want to contact you, I've got this as your best contact. Is that what do you recommend people do?
Look, that's the easiest way. Or if people want to reach out and connect with me or follow me on LinkedIn, or subscribe to my YouTube channel where I have regular tips on all sorts of Microsoft Office topics, or check out some of the work I do at my website. That would be awesome. I'd love to do anything I can to help make your life easier and less stressful.
Oh, and you've shared some wonderful tips,
Thank you.
I want to thank you. The audience wants to thank you, and just like you said, one or two of those tips you'll have an immediate improvement
For sure.
in your productivity and just feeling better about email, and feeling less of that heaviness when you feel inundated and weighed down by it all.
Absolutely.
So thanks again, and I want to tell everyone that we have on the 2nd of September an interview with Melinda Livingston about how having a morning routine can help us win the day. Donna, do you have a morning routine at all? Do you do anything religiously every morning to get you going for the day? Do you want to just give us a couple of things
sure.
you do?
Every morning I get up, I journal, do a little bit of journaling. Then I do, wait for it, bed yoga.
Ooh,
So
that sounds
I do
interesting. Yeah.
I do 5 minutes of bed yoga, so it's just sitting on the bed and stretching, basically, to unknot everything. And then I usually have coffee and my cheeky indulgence. I have a French pastry chef who supplies me with chocolate hazelnut croissants.
Oh!
So I'm addicted. So half of one of those most mornings.
Oh, what a way to start the day. So you bound out of bed in the morning to get that coffee and that croissant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wow. I love it. That's a really nice way to start each day, and it gets you in a nice, happy frame of mind.
That's right. That's right. And all too often we drag ourselves out of bed and we go, oh, another day, you know.
Yes.
But, you know, if you can find something that brings you, to quote Marie Kondo, brings you joy, sparks joy, well, isn't that what life's all about? You know, work is just such a small proportion of who we are as individuals. So let's
you're
make
right.
it fun.
The key is to find happiness in whatever we can, and looking forward to things is very important too. So,
For sure.
on that note, we'd like to say au revoir. Thank you for tuning in today, and please join us on the 2nd of September to hear all about morning routines with Melinda Livingston. We'll see you later. Bye, everyone.